All right, 97.7 Outlaw Radio FM listeners, we are live on the radio, and of course, we are live on YouTube as well. So if you want to watch the video of this conversation, make sure you slide on over to our YouTube channel. But I would proudly love to announce legendary actor. Some of you guys might remember him as Goldberg of the Mighty Ducks, but we got Shaun Weiss right here live on the radio and of course video. How are you doing tonight?
I'm fantastic. I'm having a good day.
I gotta say, man, I'm definitely having a great day as well, man. I hope you had sunshine out there in California more than we had down here in Canada. We had nothing but nonstop rain.
It was a beautiful sunny day. I'm sorry to report. I mean, look it is so sunny and beautiful here that like I would invite a rainy day once in a while. It'd be nice. Send some of that rain my way.
I gotta say as well, I actually noticed well out there in California they had obviously you guys had the forest fires going on. I hope you and yours are all safe through all that, man. Because I watch KTLA every now and then, and I see some crazy stuff going on out there.
It's nuts, dude. I don't know really how it happens, but every year it's inevitable that there's gonna be like hundreds of thousands of acres of forests are going to burn. And I don't even know how it happens. Basically, it's somebody out there setting the fires, right? That's basically what it is.
Yeah, clearly they don't listen to Smokey the Bear, though.
No, they're not. They're ignoring Smokey 100%. But yeah, I try to stay away from the forest fire area.
I gotta say, I don't blame you as well. I don't see a lot of people running into the forest fire area. I normally see them running away from it.
No, but sometimes they get really close. Like there's this pass that they call the 405 that goes like from the west side of Los Angeles into the valley. And sometimes when you're driving through that pass, there'll be like fires all around. So the fires come to us sometimes. We don't have to go to them.
Well, I got to say, I'm definitely glad you're safe, and I hope everybody else that's actually around that area is safe. You know what I mean? But Shaun, I know you're a busy individual, man. So I'm going to dive right into this, man. But I want to take you back to the very beginning, and obviously, I don't expect you to recall this part because it was so early on in your career. But I read as well that you actually started acting, your acting career, as Elvis on Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse. I was wondering if you could actually tell us a bit more about that role, and of course, how did you originally get into acting? Because you're so natural at it.
Well, thank you. I got into acting because my mom took me to see a talent scout in New York City when I was about 5 or 6. And it was one of those things where I think you had to pay the talent scout $400 or $500. So, they used to make a lot of money on doing, I wouldn't call it a scam, but it's kind of a racket, to have 1,000 kids show up. Anyway, so it was one of those things. And the lady liked me and started sending me on auditions. Now, Pee Wee's Playhouse, I remember kind of like it was yesterday, believe it or not. I have very fond memories of that. That was a trip because, I was just 5 and I didn't really understand the way the world works and stuff. But I saw this weird, quirky guy on a movie. And next thing I knew, I was in his playhouse, I don't know that I understood the concepts really of acting and being on movies and TV. Maybe I did. I don't know. But it was just a real magical time for me to be able to see this guy in Pee-wee's Big Adventure, love that movie so much. And then weeks or months later, be on a set working with him. And he was just the coolest guy. And they made the set really kid friendly. And they really just made it a very fun thing for us. Like, they set it up so it was a bunch of kids playing make-believe, really, and the cameras were just there. So yeah, that was a great gig. We did it for I guess a whole year before they moved to LA. Me and Paul Rubens are still in touch to this day. We have the same birthday, so he has sent me a card and gotten at me no matter where I was on this planet every birthday since 1986.
Hey, that's crazy.
We text and chat on the phone all the time.
And when I was younger, I didn't get the opportunity to first discover your acting on Pee-wee's Playhouse. But when I first discovered you, it was actually on a television commercial for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, where you did the Pizza Hut commercial where you were the back catcher. I remember that.
That was my best job ever. If you ask me, that's my best scene that I ever did.
I gotta say as well, like I remember actually getting the VHS tape as a kid, and I remember seeing that commercial. I'm like, yo, that's badass. Like just being a kid, I don't know how baseball made me want Pizza Hut so badly as a kid, but every time I saw that, I'm like,
Maybe it
Mom,
was
take me
that
Pizza Hut.
commercial. It could have been that commercial. But I feel you, dude. Like that commercial was very important to me because I wanted to be a baseball player when I grew up, and I wanted to be a catcher. There was a guy on the New York Mets named Gary Carter. So in that commercial, when you see me in my mind on that day, I'm Gary Carter in my head. So then I also was somewhat disappointed in myself when the commercial came out because the number one cardinal rule when you're a catcher is you have to keep your eyes open when the ball comes in. And when the ball came to me, there's a slow motion shot of me holding my glove out and closing my eyes. So my little league coach was very upset with me, and I was upset with myself. I kept
Yep.
thinking of all the takes. Why did they have to use the one where I had my eyes closed?
I don't think anyone's gonna hold it against you though. You were a young kid at the time, you know what I
It
mean? But
worked out. It worked out.
and also as well, you are most known for your role as Goldberg in Disney's legendary trilogy, The Mighty Ducks. I was wondering if you can actually tell our viewers the story behind that role, and of course, how did you actually land the role as Goldberg originally?
Well, the original part was for a guy named Atuk, the goalie, who was an Eskimo, and he had one line in the movie, and that is, "I'm Atuk, the goalie." And they had me audition either 5 or 6 times every couple months. I would go in. It felt like I took a year to audition almost. And I just got the call one day. Or no, I came home from school and my mom said, "Welcome home, Atuk." I was like, "That's a strange thing to say to your son." And she broke me the good news. And I guess they changed the name from Atuk to Goldberg during the time that we were in training camp. They got to know us, as individuals. They got to know who we were while we were there, and I guess they figured it would be easier to change the part to someone more like me. It would be easier to do that than it would be to get me to learn how to act. So that's probably what happened there.
So, what you're saying is Goldberg is actually your personality and how you acted as a kid, eh?
I guess that's how you would. I guess that's what you would take from that. Yeah.
I gotta say that's pretty cool, and I also like the fact they called you Goldberg because this I don't know, maybe it's because I'm so used to hearing Goldberg in the movie, but it took I don't know, I can't feel that. Maybe if we would have had that, maybe it would be the other way
Right.
around, but still
Yeah.
seems
It's
kind of
one of
weird.
those things. It's one of those things you never know. But there is some pretty valuable movie memorabilia out there somewhere because when I first started training camp, they had all of our equipment marked up with our characters' names. And so they had all my stuff marked up with Atuk before everything said Goldberg. So there's a bunch of like hockey sticks running around, and people hand them to me sometimes, and I'll be like, "Oh my God, where'd you find that?" Some Atuk stuff.
And I have to ask as well because I did hear as well that a lot of people think this movie was actually helping to promote like the hockey team, but the hockey team was already out before that. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about that because a lot of individuals think it's the other way around.
Okay, so I looks like I don't know the truth about that. I found somebody told me a few months ago, a source that I trust, okay, told me that the original story was that the team was the idea first, and they were like, "Hey, how do we promote this team?" And the movie was then a device to promote the hockey team, which already existed. Now, when I hear evidence towards the contrary, it's very convincing. Sometimes I hear stories that, Steve Burrell had it and made that name up and had nothing to do with the Ducks, and I feel like that could be the truth. So the reality is, I don't know what the truth is. We need to get to the bottom of this. We need to find out what was first. What came first, the duck or the movie about the duck?
I gotta say, I definitely agree there, Sean. It definitely sounds like a Mighty Duck conspiracy going on. We got to find out the truth. We got to
You
dig.
gotta
We got to
know.
dig for it.
Yeah, we're gonna find out. We need the fans to help us dig here.
And the one thing I got to ask, because I've always wondered this, just watching it as a kid, even as an adult, you guys were really, really good at skating in these movies. I have to ask, did you guys actually learn how to skate before these roles, or did you guys have a body double doing it for you?
We all went to a 2 or 3 month strictly hockey camp before we filmed any of those movies. So some of the kids, we all had stunt doubles. That's the case too. But some of the actors got to be really good skaters, like Matt, who's Averman, went to play actual high school hockey, and a couple of the guys like Garrett was a really good skater, and Eldon had quite a decent slap shot, and Vinny, Adam Banks, he was a really good skater. So yeah, there were, a lot of that stuff was really us. Me eating cheeseburgers in the goalpost, that was a stunt double.
Oh, that was? I gotta say,
No,
they were definitely.
I'm trying to be sarcastic.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah.
My bad. I was gonna be like, damn, they must have had an individual that looked exactly like Shaun.
There is a guy. His name is Brian Himes. We actually just reconnected on Facebook, but we did look very much alike when we were standing next to each other. It'd be hard to tell the difference between us back then. But I did a lot of he did the really dangerous stuff, like in the movie when I went down the staircase in the rollerblade scene. All
that,
him,
yeah.
all Brian, I think. But the scene where they tied me to the goalpost, that was me. And I want to let you know, some of those pucks found their ways to parts of me that didn't have pads on. Okay, I'll just leave it at that. I was black and blue the next day.
Well, I gotta say, hopefully they gave you a little bit extra money for that scene. And hopefully they filled Goldberg's pockets up a little bit.
Stunt pay?
Hey, we can all dream. You know what I mean? We can all dream.
Yeah, we can.
But one of the last questions I have just pertaining to the Mighty Ducks is, what is one of your most fondest memories you share? Because obviously you did the movies from, I believe, 1992 to 1996. So you must have a lot of memories. Like, what is one memory you still recollect and still look back on and be like, man, like that was a fun time just filming this movie?
There really are so many. One that just pops into mind right when you ask me that question was I remember really enjoying filming the scene where Charlie scores the goal in the end with his triple deke, because we shot that scene sort of towards the end of the movie, so it kind of felt like a wrapping up goodbye scene. And when we all run out to congratulate him, it just felt like a real, we really all kind of loved each other in that moment. And I think when you watch the movie and you see it, that sort of emotion jumps out of the screen.
I gotta say, it definitely felt like a very heartfelt moment. You guys had phenomenal chemistry on the set of these movies, man. Like, I can only imagine just filming 3 movies and having to kind of move on and do different roles.
Well, we just grew up. It was like all just a part of our childhood, and then we kind of just went on to high school. I guess you could look at it like that.
And also, as well, you actually starred in another Disney hit as well in 1995, where you actually starred in Heavyweights. I was wondering if you can actually just touch base on this particular role. And of course, what was it like just being able to work alongside Ben Stiller?
Ben Stiller was the only guy in my whole career that ever made it very hard for me to not laugh during a take. I've never, ever had that problem, like cutting up in the middle of a scene or anything like that. But when Ben was doing his thing as Tony Perkins, I had to really bite my cheeks to not laugh. So he was just so funny and so intense in that role. So one of the more memorable things I've ever done, just working with him doing those Tony Perkins scenes. I'd like to get a Heavyweights 2 going. That'd be my dream for the future.
I gotta say that right there definitely phenomenal, because I'm pretty sure you already know this as well. Hollywood seems to be kind of backtracking towards the 90s, reviving everything, man. It's some things they revive. I'm kind of like, why? Why would you do that? But Heavyweights 2, I'm definitely game for that one.
I think what it is a lot of the people that grew up watching these things are now the guys and girls that are writing, directing, and producing things in Hollywood. So they have that connection to this stuff, and they're just kind of remaking it.
And you know me asking, how did that heavyweight's role come to be for you? Because that was another phenomenal classic that still it still resonates with a lot of individuals today when they grew up in those times.
Well, Steve Brill, he's the guy who wrote Mighty Ducks, wrote Heavyweights. So that's how that happened for me. And I guess I don't know. I guess he had the idea for that movie, and he already knew me, and he knew Keenan and Aaron, so it saved him a lot of time on casting.
And I also saw as well that just a few years ago, you guys actually had the opportunity to reconnect and rekindle by doing a script reading for the Blu-ray release DVD. I was wondering, what was it like just being able to be in the room, all grown up with your fellow castmates from 1995?
It's always a trip, man, seeing everyone, and especially in my situation, because I meet up with these guys and they're all like superstars. Every time 5 years goes by, we get back together, and like, for instance, I haven't seen Keenan in a long time, and he's hosting he just hosted the Grammys,
I
right?
believe so. Yeah, the Grammys.
He
Yeah.
hosted the Grammys. So it's just odd. I mean, that's my buddy from when we grew up. So seeing your homeboy like that on the hosting the Grammys is just it's very cool.
I gotta say, he's done some phenomenal things as well. I believe he also went on to like Nickelodeon to actually do that phenomenal movie in the restaurant there. I've seen it so many times that it's literally catching my
You talking about Keenan?
Keenan and Kel. Yeah, they did a
The
phenomenal
the
movie.
the Good Burger thing?
Yes, Good
Yeah.
Burger. I know the viewers are
Well,
gonna tear me apart for that one. I should have
yeah,
known.
they're gonna get a lot of hate mail for that. Well, look, he did Good Burger, and then he's spent the last several couple decades on Saturday Night Live, so that's not too shabby.
Oh yeah, Saturday Night Live definitely is definitely a good pay, but also definitely really good for your career because it jump started a lot of individuals.
Well, the thing with Keenan is he's been doing sketch comedy from when he was a toddler. He did that show All That on Nickelodeon. And really, I think I don't know this to be a fact, but I think doing that sketch comedy is really where his heart is. That's what he loves doing. So I don't think Saturday Night Live is any sort of jump off post for him. I think that's his dream job, and it would be mine too. So I understand.
And also as well, in 1999, you actually had a reoccurring role in a very unfortunate short-lived NBC show Freaks and Geeks. I was wondering, how did that opportunity originally come to be for you?
Well, it came to be from Judd Apatow, who was one of the producers of Heavyweights. So I didn't have to really audition for that part. My name was Shaun in the show. So, it's funny you mention Freaks and Geeks because I just watched an episode. I forget what show it was, but it's on Netflix, and they basically talk about things that reached pop culture icon status. So they did a whole 2-hour show about Freaks and Geeks. So it was really interesting to see the kind of effect that show had on people in such a short period of time. And people loved it so much, and it got canceled. They didn't even give it really a chance to be on the air. So it's weird that they would do it like that.
And I got to say as well, I definitely agree with you. They never really gave it a chance. Me personally, I very much enjoyed that show. I tried getting my wife into actually watching it as well. She watched one episode and then, but I got to say, definitely got to give her a chance. It was like 2 in the morning when we watched it, so I gotta turn it on at like.
Oh
3
yeah,
o'clock.
you gotta show it to her before 10 p.m. That's a before 10 p.m. show.
Definitely.
And maybe even on the weekend. Maybe it's like a 7 o'clock on a Sunday show, like a 6 p.m. on a Sunday.
I
Try
definitely agree. I'll definitely try then. But it had such a legendary actors. Of course, it had yourself. Then it also had Jason Segel as well. Jason, Franco. Like this, the list goes on of amazing actors, man.
Rogan, Linda.
I know exactly who you're speaking. I always call her Velma from Scooby Doo because I can never remember her last name.
McCarty. Oh my god. I hope you delete this part. Oh, this is live, huh? Oh my god. she's
Everybody
she's a
forget it.
movie star, and I can't think of her name. That's crazy. But anyway, yeah, there's a lot of talent on that show. Jason Schwartzman was on that show. Yeah, so many people.
And before we move off this topic, I have to ask, what is your opinion on this show? Like, obviously, you touched base on it a little bit, but what's your in-depth opinion on this show getting canceled? Do you think if they would have gave it a chance, do you think it would have lasted a lot longer?
Yeah, without a doubt. That's not even a matter of opinion, because so many people loved it, and so many. I mean, look, we make TV. It's like an arbitrary thing, It's a matter of opinion. But when you have so many people, so many talented people in a room working on something, it's like, well, how can that possibly go wrong? So I think definitely it would have been a staple of. It would have been one of the classic American TV shows for sure.
And also, while we're still on the topic of classic American TV shows, you also actually had a guest role actually in King of Queens. I just have to ask, what was it like being able to work side by side with Kevin James?
I don't know. Kevin James was a little intimidating for me because he's a very large man and a giant presence, and so I was just I was always nervous in his company, to be honest, just because he's so magnificent. He's an overwhelming guy to be around, So, and he's large, so that just a big guy, and he's loud and funny, and so yeah. But I always looked up to him, and when I was on the show, kind of saw him as something, a role model. I wanted to be like him when I grew up.
Because I remember actually throughout the show, you got guest starred on it twice, but two different roles. I always enjoyed that because a lot of individuals, I always look at the small things in the TV shows, and I noticed that you guest starred, and then later on in the series, you came back again as another different guest star. It was really cool to see something like that.
I actually came back again as another different role.
3 times.
Yeah, I did 3. Yeah, the one time I was in a movie theater, and then another time was a Valentine's episode, and then another time I was a clerk in a drugstore. So we got to find that. We got to look. We have to figure out where that is.
I remember the Valentine's one. I remember the movie theater, but the drugstore one, I got to go back and watch the whole series now. That just
I'm working at a drugstore, and I can't remember what he comes in to find. He comes in to find some kind of product, but it's an embarrassing product, and he's embarrassed to ask for it, something like that. But yeah, that was like a move that they used to do. It's like a throwback to old time television. Like on the Days of Lucy, when they would have actors that they like would recur as different characters just because they were, popular actors or whatever. So they gave me a chance to do that on King of Queens. And it was always amazing to work with Leah. Oh my God, such a doll. What a sweet woman to be around.
I gotta say, she's obviously watching the show, she's very intimidating. Was she the same way in real life, or was she a complete opposite?
Yeah, no, she's a no-nonsense, tough Italian East Coast woman. I would not bring any kind of mess to her if you were planning on it. But at the same time, still very sweet and just, really warm to be around. She'll give you a hug and a kiss type person.
And the next question I have, if you do want to skip it, we definitely can. But as the world knows, currently right now, you are actually, currently in sobriety and whatnot. The one question I do have is because a lot of individuals right now are currently going through the same thing as you right now. And I do know if they're watching, a lot of individuals sometimes won't really listen to their wife or their husbands or their moms or dads. They'll listen to individuals that they kind of grow up idolizing. So I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about struggling with sobriety, and of course, man, overcoming it, and what's some great things you do to overcome it on a daily basis maybe they can help other people in their struggles.
Well, I've never struggled with sobriety. I've struggled with drug addiction. When I got sober, there really wasn't much struggle involved. So I guess the bit of advice, because it really, honestly, there's not much you can say to someone that doesn't really want to get clean. There's no thing you can say to them to make them want to change, right? That has to come from within. And but I would say that if you think that you can get away with any kind of drug use on sort of a manageable level, that's a myth. And when you have these things in your life, like hard drugs, street drugs, things I was using like crystal meth and heroin. When you have that kind of stuff in your life, even if you're like able to manage for a short time, first of all, inevitably it'll crash, inevitably. But even if you're able to manage, like it makes you out of tune with life, so you're not really sure why things in your life are kind of falling apart around you, and it just kind of takes you out of tune with everything. And I don't know, for me, it stole from me some really good years of family that I will never have back. It cost me a lot of relationships and definitely my career. So I don't know. I guess I would encourage somebody that knows they have a problem with substance to get professional help as soon as you can. I guess that would be my advice.
And I just got to say quickly before we move off this topic, I got to say congratulations on that as well, man. Because honestly,
Thank you.
I as a fan, I was definitely praying for you, man. I knew you could
Thank
definitely
you.
overcome it. You know what I mean? So just honestly, I'm so glad to see that Shaun's back and better than ever.
Thank you, dude. Like honestly, your your prayers got answered. Is all I can say.
And also as well, I actually read an article, and I didn't even know this until I actually did some more research on for this interview, that you also actually got baptized for real on a set of a movie. I was wondering if you can actually tell us a bit more about this baptism, and of course, like, what was it like just actually getting baptized in front of the entire cast and crew?
It was a very powerful moment. It brought me to tears, and it was at a time in my life where I was definitely welcoming any sort of cleansing, spiritual and physical. So I really didn't understand the weight of what had happened to me until some days after, when I had really come to understand the magnitude of Pastor Greg Laurie. Like I didn't understand his stature really at the time and the effect that he's had on people's lives. So when I found out really what had happened to me, I was like, oh my god, that was like a big thing that happened. So, and life has been good ever since. So, no regret.
And did you know you were getting baptized in the movie for real, or was it something that you weren't aware of until
Well,
after it was done?
in the movie, in the scene, my character was getting baptized. So on the day of when we were shooting, I was getting my makeup done, and the makeup person who was a fan of Greg Laurie said, "Well, he's out there baptizing people for real. Like if you ask him to baptize you, he'll really baptize you." So I thought about it for a moment, and I said, "Well, yeah, that sounds like it'd be good." And so I went and asked him, and he asked me, "Am I serious? Is it something I really want to do?" And we spoke a little bit about what it was to be baptized. And I said, "Yes, I would like that, please. I'll have one, please." And he did it, and so it was crazy. It was a very powerful moment. Maybe I want to say 500 or 600 people out there, and to get baptized by a pastor like that it was awesome.
And I have to ask, do you well, what up? One thing I always wanted to know, because obviously back in the day, and even in the early 2000s, you must have got just roles like not handed to you, but like offered to you nonstop. Are there any roles that you actually kind of sat back and was like, I don't want to do this? Did you turn down any roles, or did you actually accept them all?
There is one that I can't say. I hate when actors say that stuff. It's like, what do you mean you can't say? The reason I can't say is because I know the guy who went and did the part and was very successful at it. So how can I go and tell him, well, you got the part because I said I didn't want to do the part? You get what I'm saying? So there is one that sticks out in my mind where it's not a regret. I'm glad he did it. He probably did a better job than I would have. But if it's the only part where I've ever thought about, I wonder what it would have been like if I did that. But I
I
can't tell you what it is.
I gotta say, I'm not gonna pressure you, man. I entirely respect that. You know what I mean? Because
Thank you.
at the end of the day, at the end of the day, even if you tell us, it's not really gonna change any history. You know what I mean?
Right, it's not
It's
going to
just gonna
change
keep us
anything. It's
fans
just going to
wishing.
piss him off. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you obviously did what you did because that was your wishes. You at the time you probably didn't think it was right for you, and as a fan, I respect that. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it was a scheduling thing, and so I had to choose between one thing or the other, and so I chose the other. But the other thing that I didn't choose ended up being a much more successful thing. But as a kid, you don't know even adults don't know sometimes what thing to pick. So how was I supposed to know back then? So I went with what was going to be more fun for me to shoot, and so my plan backfired, but it all worked out.
And one of the things I actually have to ask, just going back to the Muddy Ducks here for a quick moment, I had it in my list and I totally actually forgot to bring this up. You actually, I remember seeing previous interviews how you spoke about Muddy Ducks 4 movie. Is that something that is actually still currently going on, or did that transform into the what we know now as the revived series?
Listen, here's what you have to know about Hollywood when you ask those kinds of questions. The actors are the last people to know anything about anything, unless you're like probably the star of the movie. Like
Yeah.
Emilio might know before everybody else knows. So we just wouldn't know until like there was a script passed out. Now, did the idea of a D4 get funneled into the TV show? That's probably a good possibility that that's what happened. But I think there is another movie to be made, which is D4 about the original cast. Where is what are the original Ducks doing? Because I can totally understand bringing in a new team, right? That makes a lot of sense. But I think there are a lot of Ducks fans out there that would be curious to see what we're up to now.
I gotta say as well, I really hope they put that into motion because like we talked about during the interview, the '90s seem to be making a comeback. I don't know how they can bring a decade back, but it definitely seems like in Hollywood they're definitely reviving a lot of 1990s, a lot of 1990s nostalgia.
Dude, this has been happening the whole time throughout Hollywood. They just used to change the names of stuff. Now they don't bother changing the name. They just call it Karate Kid Cobra Kai instead of calling it, you know what I mean? It's like it used to be they would just call it something else.
But I have to ask, what is next for yourself, Shaun Weiss? Like, is it you have any new roles coming up? Anything you're currently doing? Anything we missed that you still want to talk about or promote? We still got you here live on the radio station dial this evening.
Well, right now I've been focusing on self, right? I'm doing my yoga. I'm getting strong. I'm getting my energy up. I'm welcoming all movie and film roles. If anyone's listening, I'd love to get back into acting and doing that kind of stuff. And really, I've been putting all my creative time and energy into doing stand up. I just had a show last night, and it's probably my best show that I've ever had. Uh, Amazing crowd. People are so supportive, man. Like I get up on stage and they're like, "You can do it, Goldberg. You can do it." So I don't even have to really be that good. I just have to not be too scared to go get finished with my routine. So that's what I'm working on now is my stand up, and it's really cool because I get a chance to talk about some serious things in ways that may be therapeutic or helpful to others, but in a funny way. That's really what I'm trying to get at.
And also, speaking of the stand up, because I actually did not know that aspect of your career, which I got to say is absolutely phenomenal. I definitely got to come out to California sometime and actually check out one of your shows. But what is the next stand up show you're currently doing? And if the viewers are in the California area, how can they actually snag some tickets to see Shaun in full effect?
I currently don't have another show lined up. Right now, I've been doing just the open mics out here. I've got a really good friend named Ryan Talamo. He has a night every Thursday at Corbin Bowl. If you're really a diehard fan and you want to come to LA, come see me at Corbin Bowl in Woodland Hills on Thursday night. So I've really been just fleshing out my act and working out my act at open mics before. LA is a tricky place because right down the street is Comedy Store, Laugh Factory, and the Improv, the three most famous comedy clubs on the planet. And it's kind of hard to get booked at those places because they've got Chris Rock and Dave Chappelle popping in whenever they are driving by. You know what I mean? So I've just been working on my act before I try to get in at some of those places before I go over there and make an idiot out of myself. because you have to be really good by the time you go in there. I wouldn't bring your, I'm still working on my jokes routine to the Comedy Store. You get me? I
Oh
know
yeah.
I know you do. Yeah.
Especially the Comedy Store. I believe the Comedy Store that was also founded actually by Pauly Shore's mother as well.
Yeah, Mitzi and I forget his dad's name. Forget Sammy and Mitzi. And I know Paulie because he did an episode of a sitcom I was on one time, so I got to spend a week with him. And he's another sweet guy. And if you ask me, Pauly Shore will be one of the funniest human beings ever on the face of the earth. Especially, well, I don't know how the young kids are because I don't know what they find funny. I have no idea. But people our age, I guarantee you, if you went and saw Pauly Shore do live stand-up comedy, you'll laugh your ass off for however long he's on stage. He's just an hysterical man.
I gotta say, I definitely agree. Me, Encino Man's still one of my favorite movies of all
Oh,
time. And
good, good.
Encino Man and Son-in-Law definitely are tied. I can't really choose one, so I gotta go with both.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, it was classic. Yeah, buddy.
We's in the Jews.
Right.
But
I
no,
haven't heard that in a while.
But since you're actually, like you said, you spent a week with Pauly, I have to ask, what was that week like hanging out with Pauly? Because I obviously know Pauly is an amazing guy, but also he's pretty crazy in a good way as well. He loves to party.
No, I don't know. I'm sure he does, but he's just a sweetheart, like a sweet guy, and just nice to everybody. Like, hey, hello, hi, says hi to everyone, that kind of shit, and just a very fun guy. In the week that I got to work with him, sometimes celebrities come on and do guest spots on TV shows, and they kind of stick to themselves or whatever. And he didn't do that. He was just very approachable and very nice. And dude, every single comic that I know have a story about how he helped them in some way. He's just had a lifelong of like helping people out. And he grew up with his babysitter was Sam Kinison. So he had quite a life.
And also, we actually have a user submitted question here on YouTube. Victoria Brown actually wants to know, have you actually thought about writing a book about your experiences?
Yeah, I've been working on that. I'll do that at some point. I'm still kind of wrapping it up. But yeah, Victoria, I will focus on that only because I think it could be helpful. Just because people tell me they find my story helpful, not because I think I can sell 1 million copies or anything like that. So when I figure out how to frame my story in the best way, I'll have that. But I do have a really awesome writer that's helping me work on it. So thanks, Victoria. Officially, Victoria, you got a copy when it comes out. You officially got a free dibs on a free copy.
And I gotta say as well, though, honestly, man, like this book better be a New York Times best-selling author. That's all I gotta say, man. It better hit the New York Times charts. That's all I'm gonna say.
That'd be nice to be a New York Times best-selling author. I'll take it.
And also as well, because I know how you talked about how you're currently working on yourself and you got the comedy going on. But I have to ask, because obviously social media is still such a big thing. And before we wrap things up, I always like asking individuals to just drop their social media handles, so that way our listeners can follow you and everything you got going on, of course, past, present, and of course, future as well.
Please do. I had not been maintaining my social media for years, so I just got into it, and I'm into it. Like, I love it. Like, feel interacting with fans and engaging with people in that way. So yeah, please go to my Instagram at Shaun Weiss. It's just my name, ShaunWeiss, and yeah, because I'm trying to get my Instagram followers up, because I spent so long not really trying to cultivate it and not putting out any posts, like literally probably 3 or 4 years. I didn't put a post up on my Facebook or Instagram. So a lot of the other ducks got a huge head start on me. So I'm kind of jealous that they have all these followers. Like some of them have, like, I don't know, 50,000 followers, and I only have like 15 or 16. So yeah, even if you're not a fan, even if you didn't listen to this interview, go and hop on and follow me on Instagram, will you? Thanks for the plug, DJ Mortal.
And also, speaking of plugs, I also noticed you're on Cameo as well, man. Like,
oh, dude, look it. I was kind of hesitant to get on Cameo. Here's why: because I don't really enjoy selling my autograph. And it's weird for me to sell like memorabilia. I feel like fans should get your autograph for free, right? Yeah. But it just so happens there's a market for that stuff. There's autograph conventions, and I need to earn a living, so I do that kind of stuff. but I always feel weird about it. Like if a fan wants me to sign a Goldberg jersey, I just want to sign it for them. But anyway, so the market. What was your question?
Oh, I was talking about how Cameo, how you're actually on Cameo.
So at first, I didn't really want to go on Cameo, but I didn't really know what it was. But I've been on there lately, and I'm having a blast because people they'll give you the coolest Cameo requests. Like my son has his first hockey game tomorrow, and he plays goalie because of you. Can you just say hello to him? Like that's the coolest thing. Like that's so much fun to go and say hello to what's up, Connor. And I've knighted several honorary ducks so far. I don't know that I'm allowed to do that, but I've been doing that. And I tell them, I'm like, if anybody doubts the authenticity of your knighthood, you tell them to come check with Goldberg. And I've been making a list. Okay, so if you're not on that list and you think you're gonna get away with one, that's not happening either. So, so I've been making cameos, and it's been a blast. Like I've done 25 of them in the last week. So.
Have you actually gotten any weird requests? Because obviously some fans out there are. You haven't yet?
Yeah, no, I get what you mean. There's always like some kind of weird thing, and there's a rating system on Cameo where the participants get to rate your cameo. They get to give you however many stars they want, and I don't know. I feel like that's weird. I mean, I feel like it cheapens the whole thing. Like we're celebrities, not Uber drivers. And I feel like there's no matter how good you are, there's always going to be that one nut that goes and gives you a 1 star just because that's the kind of person they are and has a bad day. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't agree with the star system. I don't think they should.
And if anybody gives Goldberg a 1 star, DJ Immortal says F you because
we're coming after
amazing.
you. We're coming after you. Don't even try it, dude. Don't even try with that 1 star BS. Yeah, but no, I haven't gotten any weird requests lately. But now that you mention it, I welcome some weird requests. I'm bored over here. I would love some weird stuff going on.
I have to say, I've heard stories about Cameo how some individuals ask some weird stuff and they instantly are like, nope, refund the money. Like I'm not doing that. You know what I mean?
Listen, man. Between me and you, it had to be some really weird stuff before I refund that money.
I gotta say, definitely true. It also has to be worth your money as well. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
It can't be something like super weird and you're like, wow, like no, there's not enough money in the world.
Well, here's the thing. In general, I'm not sticking anything anywhere. That's just beyond that. I can't think of anything that would really freak me out.
I gotta say that's true. But if anyone asks that, I think they need therapy and not a cameo.
Agreed.
But also, speaking of, since we're on the topic of Cameo and we really dug deep into that, what's your Cameo link? Like, how does individuals find you on Cameo? That way they can actually purchase themselves either Goldberg or a Shaun cameo.
Well, on my Instagram, on my direct link, on where my bio is, there's a direct link to my Cameo. I don't know how you get to find me if you just go to the Cameo website and just type my name in, I guess. But if you go to my Instagram while you're clicking follow, right under in my bio is my link to Cameo.
And I gotta say, first and foremost, Shaun, before we wrap things up, like I told you before we went live, I've been a huge fan of your acting since I was a young kid. And now just being able to be an adult and getting the opportunity to just email you and I asked about interviewing you and you said yes, man. Just got to say thank you so much for your time, man. You're definitely making, I would say, the boyhood dream come true. You know what I mean? Being able to chop it up with one of my childhood inspirations.
You're more than welcome, and thank you for your fandom this whole time.
I gotta say, I definitely try keeping it inside. You know what I mean? I try to keep making things professional, but also be like, man, it's fucking Goldberg.
You did an excellent job of walking that line, but still, letting me know that you were happy to have me on.
And I gotta say, Goldberg, I do know that it is super late right now, there, Shaun. So I'm not gonna keep you much longer. I just want to say thank you so much for your time, and
you're welcome, Doug.
Hopefully down the line we can make this happen again sometime soon. But for now, definitely enjoy the rest of your Sunday night out there in California.
Hey, you do the same. You two guys listening out there.
Hey, most definitely, Shaun. Thank you so much.
All right, take care, bud.